going to quickly go over some equations that you have on your notes, and then I'm going to go over some questions that are on your Google form just so y'all are prepared. So here's the thing with quadratic applications. Usually they use it in terms of a ball and the height of something. So usually like when someone shoots a basketball or someone shoots off a rocket, a golf ball swing, which are examples you'll see in your Google form. In this case, it wants to know when the ball will hit the ground, which in other words, they're wanting to know the zero, aka your solution. Okay, so these are some different types of examples, so that's why I'm going to go over them quickly because you never know if you'll see them, but then we will go over the ones that you'll see today. So it says find the dimensions of the rectangle below if the area is 65. So I know that area of a rectangle is length times width. So if the area is 65, then I plug that area in, and then I have x plus 8 as the length, or x minus 8, sorry, and x. So I want to solve that. It wants to know what are the true dimensions. So we have multiplication going on here, guys. So we're going to multiply. So when I distribute this x, I have x squared. And then I distribute this x to the negative 8. So negative 8x equals 65. But I can't solve this to figure out what the x's should be if it's not set equal to 0. So in this case, I'm going to subtract 65 just so it'll be set equal to 0. Now my equation is 0 equals x squared minus 8x minus 65. So if you are aware of the calculator trick, you would then do your calculator trick here, but my advanced algebra 1, you are going to figure out what multiplies to the negative 65 but adds to negative 8. Okay, negative 65 multiplies to negative 65, whoops, but adds to negative 8. So if you don't realize, it's going to be negative 13 and 5. Okay, so it's going to be negative 13 and 5. So we have 0 equals x minus 13 and x plus 5. We're not necessarily done yet. Like, we need solutions. We need to know what x is. So remember, when it's set equal to 0, we would plug it, we would set each factor equal to 0. So x, actually I'm going to come over here. X minus 13 equals 0. So how I would solve that is by adding 13. So x equals 13. And then x plus 5 equals 0. So I subtract 5. So x equals negative 5. So, newsflash, when we're talking about something, when it comes to area, when it comes to length, when it comes to time, it cannot be negative. So any kind of application problem, if you get a negative solution, that is not going to be a part of your answer. So if x equals 13, then that means this length is 13, and this is 13 minus 8, which ends up being 5. So our dimensions of our rectangle are 13 and 5 feet. All right, and this is the last one I'm going to do on your notes because, to be fair, actually I'm going to do one more. I take the back. Okay, so the length of the rectangle is x plus 7, and the width of this same rectangle is x minus 1. Find the measures of length and width if the area is 128. So same thing. Okay, so it's going to be, goodness gracious, I can't keep my screen still. So if we have area equals length times width, and area is 128, that's what it says here, and then our length is x plus 7, and our width is x minus 1. So For those that use the box method, my advanced, you would use FOIL here. So my box method would be this. So I'm going to do the box method, but my advanced, make sure you FOIL here. So x plus 7, x minus 1, and you fill the boxes by multiplying. So x times x is x squared. X times -1 is a -1x. 7 times x is a positive 7x, and then 7 times -1 is a -7. And then remember, you add your diagonals. So 7 plus a -1 will get us a 6x. So in this case, we have 128 equals x squared plus 6x, minus 7. Okay, but I can't solve this unless it's set equal to 0. So I've got to subtract this 128 over. I'm going to line it up with the other only number. So I have 0 equals x squared plus 6x, and then negative 128 minus, or negative 7 minus 128 is a negative 135. So again, I want to figure out, at this point, on level algebra, you would do your calculator trick, and then I would do what multiplies to negative 135 but adds to 6. I'll help you out here. It's going to be 15 and 9, negative 9. Okay, so we have 0 equals x plus 15 and x minus 9. So in this case, we would set each of these factors equal to 0. So x plus 15 equals 0 and solve, and x minus 9 equals 0 and solve. So how I would solve the pink equation is subtracting 15. So x will equal negative 15. And then how I solve the purple equation is by adding 9. 0 plus 9 is positive 9. But remember, we talked about this. We don't want to use a negative solution. So the value of x, is 9. So then I just plug in 9, the value of x, into both of those equations. So the length is x plus 7. So in this case, it's going to be 9 plus 7, which is 16. And the width is x minus 1. So plug in that 9. So 9 minus 1, which is 8. Okay. So don't forget to plug x back in. Okay. So I'm going to do number 5 just to show you what that's going to look like. So when it says word like product of 2 positive consecutive integers, number 6 says 2 positive consecutive integers, odd integers, stuff like that. Okay. So the product, remember product means multiply. So we're going to multiply 2 positive consecutive integers is an equal to 72. So I know it equals 72. Okay. Well, if the first number is x, then the second number, remember it's consecutive, so the second number is going to be x plus 1. Because if I pick, the answer's 3, like x is 3, how I get to 4 is just by adding 1. So my equation's going to be x times x plus 1. Okay, so this is kind of how we configured what x and x plus 1 stand for. It's the 2 consecutive numbers. Okay, so again, just like the first one, I need to distribute this x to everything inside the parentheses. So now what I truly have is a 72 equals x squared plus 1x. But again, I can't solve this unless I subtract 72. So then actually what my equation is x squared plus 1x minus 72. So I need, again, if you know the calculator trick, you would go do the calculator trick. My advanced, we're going to solve it by hand. So I need a number that multiplies to negative 72 but adds to 1. So it's going to be 9 and negative 8. So it's going to be x plus 9, x minus 8. And then because I'm finding the solution, I've got to set each of those equal to 0 and solve. Okay, so again, it says I want two positive consecutive integers, so I must use the positive value, which in this case is 8. So my first number is just the value of x, which is 8, and my second number is x plus 1, so 8 plus 1, which is 9. Okay. All right, I'm going to go over a few questions that you'll see on your Google form just to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So the height in feet of a golf ball hit into the air is given by h equals negative 16t squared plus 64t, where t is the number of seconds elapsed since the ball was hit. So t is time after a ball was hit. So it's asking how long does it take for the ball to hit the ground? So in this case, if the ball that is hit has to be hit up into the air and then falls on the ground, the height of the ball should be what? 0. So you would plug in 0 for x, which is now highlighted. Okay? Or h, sorry. So it'd be 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 64t. And then you would solve for t, how much time it takes. Remember, you're going to use the positive integer. Okay, and here's another thing. Like my kids that are solving this by hand, you would take out the greatest common factor here, right? So you would figure out the greatest common factor of negative 16 and 64, and then you could take out a t, and that's going to be one of your factors. Okay, all right, here's the one I was talking about, a rocket, 4th of July. The fireworks are discharged vertically upward from a height of 4 feet above the ground, so hence why it's plus 4 at the end of the equation, where h is the height of the firework in feet after t seconds. Okay, when will the debris hit the ground? So again, that means when h is 0, so in this case you're just solving for t, and you're going to use the positive integer because you can only use positive numbers when it comes to height and time in real life situations. Okay. And then, oh, that's it. That's your only question. Okay. So if height is 0, you're going to plug in 0 for x or for h. Okay. This is the one I wanted to briefly talk about. I'll be quick, I promise. So somewhere over the rainbow, an artist drew a rainbow mural on the school cafeteria wall. Its outer boundary can be represented by a parabola, aka a N, just like a rainbow is shaped. Okay, parabolas are also known in quadratic formulas, which is why quadratics are very well known equations. Anyways, it's represented by y equals negative x squared plus 6x, where y is the height of the outer boundary of feet, and x is the width. Okay, so y is the height, x is the width, just like y is the height, so how tall, range, okay, put some correlation to that. So what is the width of the outer boundary of the rainbow mural? So the width, so it's wanting to know from 0 to 50 feet. So pretty much what it's wanting to know is when y, okay, when x, what is the width of the outer boundary of the mural? Okay, so what is the width? So how long the outer boundary of the rainbow mural, okay? All right, then it says determine the value of H needed for the mural to be flush against the door. Okay, so determine the height. Okay, all right, so it wants the maximum value. Okay, so in this case, I would maybe, and actually I want you to, okay, I want you to see about graphing this one in Desmos and using Desmos to help you. Okay, visualize this. So if I want the width of the outer boundary of the rainbow mural, okay, this is pretty much when X is 0 or when Y is 0. So you would solve on A just like you would. So you're factoring and solving, or if you're in my class, you're doing your calculator trick. Okay, but determining the value of H needed for the mural to be flush against the door. Okay, all right, you would then make sure you're plugging this into Desmos and finding the height of the parabola. Okay, so that's probably your hardest one. Okay, all right. So this is, again, this is wanting to know the 0. So you would just factor and solve this one, or if you're in my class, it's the calculator trick. Down under, the horizontal distance. So again, okay, how wide is actually pretty much asking you what is the other 0. So meaning what is the positive value of this quadratic equation. Okay, how far can a kangaroo jump? So also, if you've made it this long and I'm about to be done in 10 seconds, my advanced kids, you don't necessarily have to solve by factoring. You could use your quadratic formula here. So the negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay. All right. I think that'll be it. If y'all need help, y'all can go ask Miss Garland. Bye, guys.